What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Champion Living Podcast, the only podcast crossing the lines between the sport of rodeo and fitness. Today's episode, we're missing Logan, but Paul and I are jumping into rodeo. Where does it stand in today's world? We're going to break down resistance training versus skill training and how those should be approached in your total training regimen. Last thing, we're going to talk a little bit about a winner's mentality and things that should be that all winners have, key psychological and emotional elements to a champion's mindset. We're diving in right now. Big dog, how are you, buddy? Thanks for getting up early with me.
Good, man. Yeah, absolutely. I thought the topics that we're going to hit today are kind of fitting because I think as of this recording, the release date will be a little different. But as of this recording, I think we're at like the 2-year anniversary of the podcast right now.
Wow.
And so we're going to kind of revisit some of the topics that we talked about in the first episode, and we'll let the listeners decide as far as what's changed, what's better, what's worse. Like, where does rodeo stand? Are we on the right track? So it'd be kind of fun.
I think we are. I think we're on the right track. 2 years, man. Happy anniversary. I feel like we're cheating on Logan right now with him not being here.
I do too. It doesn't feel good, but he would do the same to us.
Yeah, he would. I told you yesterday I was going to sight in some rifles, and I told you that 300 I got. I love it, but I'm legit sore.
Yeah, how's your shoulder feeling this morning?
Sore, man. Feel like a wuss. I'm like, man, you can't even shoot a rifle these days without getting sore. It's just not good. I need to toughen up. Tighten up.
Yeah. I don't shoot near as much as I used to, and I feel like in my probably high school years, I would shoot like very frequently. And in high school rodeo, even, I think they had just started to offer the NRA trap shooting, and so I got to compete at nationals and stuff, and so that was a lot of fun, especially when you get out there and like you think you're good, and then you get out there among all those other guys, and like some of those kids were like, that's the whole reason that they were signed up for quote unquote high school rodeo was just to shoot, and they'd pop 25 for 25 like in 3 practice rounds, and I'm like, oh, I'm about to get smoked.
I'm not as good as I thought.
Yeah.
Dude, I feel like that's applicable to so much though. Like how many people in probably every sport, I saw this in CrossFit a lot, was there you'd have guys and girls really, really competitive inside their own box. They'd be the best in their gym, right? Kind of big fish in a tiny pond syndrome there. They would, enter competitions going in confident, like, oh, this is going to be quote unquote easy, or, I'm going to whoop their asses, no problem. Bro, you start getting in some bigger water, you realize very quickly you are not nearly at the level that you thought you were, and there are a lot of people that are a lot better than you. I dealt with that firsthand for a number of years in CrossFit competitions. But it is.
Well, we say.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we say that like all the time. Like, you never want to be the smartest person in the room, or the strongest person in the room, or the handiest guy in your rig, because like if you're the top, like you have nobody to learn from. Like you think you start to get a little bit complacent. You're like, oh well, I'm big fish in this little pond. So like nobody can eat me, until you get thrown into another pond and it's a little bit bigger, and you're like, oh crap, I've still got some learning to do. I've still got some progress that needs to be made here. And I don't care like what level you're at. Like there's probably always going to be somebody that you can learn from in whatever your discipline is that you're trying to go for.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good thing you mentioned there about like you don't want to be the best in the room. And granted, it's good to be the best, but what that means is you need to be looking for your next place to grow. So whether it's another gym to drop into and go train at a couple times a week, whether it's getting in with the different guys on the road, that are at your level and you guys are all experiencing the same things. You're a high caliber athlete, but you're able to feed off each other that way, right? It's hard to feed off somebody if you're constantly teaching them or they're learning from you, and you're getting nothing in return from it, from the experience, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I would say, if you are one of those elite athletes in whatever sport or even business, like, um, get out, get new experiences, meet new people that are on the same level as you, and that's how you're going to grow again. It's really easy to get
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuck
Yeah,
in
you
that
got to
where do I
graduate,
go?
right?
Yep.
Like, yeah, when you're in grade school, if you're the smartest kid in your class in grade school, what do? They bump you up a grade. So now you're
Hmm.
not the smartest kid anymore, And then that challenges that kid to grow even further. And so like in our personal and professional lives, like so many times we get to that top spot and we're like, this feels good. I'm gonna hang out here for a while. But in reality, like you need to graduate. Like you got to
Hmm.
move up. So yeah, that's a
That's absolutely,
that's
dude.
important, and that goes for so many things like skill, strength, rodeo,
Hmm.
education. Like it doesn't matter. It's across the board. Like if you're the top, I mean, always be striving for the top, obviously. Like, but once you get there, like find a new group or find a new something like that's going to challenge you and push you.
Hmm. Yeah, man. It's really easy to get complacent when you hit that level. You're like, oh, we made
Mm-hmm.
it. This is it. Cool. We're just gonna coast here. And the fact of the matter is, there's too many people in the world that are pushing for that spot. You will not be able to coast for long.
Mm-hmm.
So good
Yeah.
points, man. Good
It
points. Let's
it's
go ahead.
way harder to. Yeah, I was just gonna. Last thing on this is it's always way harder to defend the top spot than it is to to be the underdog and climb up. Like you see that all the time, especially with like well, in rodeo we see it. Like usually the number one guy coming in or an elite level athlete is going to prefer to come in at that 2 or 3 spot because then that
Hmm.
still gives them that goal. But if they're going into the NFR at number one, like now they're playing defense, and like that's not a place you want to be. And like you see it with like UFC fighting too. Like
Oh
how
yeah,
many times does the belt champ keep the belt? Not
not
often
often.
because he's trying to defend it.
Hmm.
And so there's another guy that's way hungrier that wants to prove that he's the top guy,
Hmm.
and the current champion is just trying to defend. And if he comes in with that defense mindset, he's going to lose it every time. If he comes in like as the underdog mindset, he
Hmm.
might keep it. And so that's kind of the best analogy I can come up with that is the
Yeah,
ultimate fighting. You
absolutely.
see that all the time.
You see it every year, man. And it
Mm-hmm.
really even go at first if you aren't just ahead by an absolute landslide. So if you're not Stetson Wright, or
Mm-hmm.
someone like that, where you're going in with a $200,000 lead or whatever. Most guys that go in number one don't stay there at the NFR. Throughout the 10 days,
Mm-hmm.
you see these guys start creeping up and beating them, and like you said, it's that defense mentality of, oh, I just got to get by this, and fall somewhere in the money instead of being really specific about what you want the outcome to be, and just sticking to your guns and the basics that got you there. I was talking with Richie. He's going in 15th hole, and I told him, I said, dude, this is the first year that you've been to the NFR out of 9 or something like that, where you haven't been um, top 5, top 7, third place, something like that going in. And you have literally nothing to lose here. Like, the only way is
Mm-hmm.
up. You can only go up. Like, don't worry about anything. Just get to work, go do what you do and have fun doing it and enjoy being there. And I think that's going to be a huge benefit to him because, I mean, you can't go down from 15. Like, you're there. Um,
Right.
only way is up. And so, hammer down, gas pedal mash down. Let's go, have some fun. He's like, dude, I haven't thought about it like that. So it's I'm excited to see what he does this year at the finals. But let's get into rodeo, man, and kind of what we were talking about. Like, where does it stand today? And I think 2 years
Yeah.
ago we talked about this, and we're in a different place than we were 2 years ago.
Holy smokes, man! Like you can reflect on the last 2 years. It's like it's almost a night and day difference.
Mm-hmm.
Probably some of the things we talked about 2 years ago were like, oh, there's gonna be more money added, or there's gonna be like more opportunities for guys. Like now you look at it, there's way more money added.
Mm-hmm.
There's way more opportunities for guys. Some of the things that kind of come to mind are, with outside of rodeo, but in the Western sports world is PBR teams. Like we didn't see that coming 2 years ago when we first talked about this. PBR teams is a whole new thing, and it's providing like a ton of financial opportunities for guys. And so, love it or hate it, like it's here, and guys are making money like they've never made money before, still doing the sport they love. Some of the other things that I was thinking about, like standalone rough stock events. We've
Yep.
been a part of bringing one up. Like, there's
Hmm.
way more standalone rough stock events now than there was 2 years ago. And if you just look at the top 15, the standings, and the money that's won, like, it's pretty obvious that there's a lot more money out there now for guys to win than there was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just the last hole is $20,000-$30,000 higher than it was 2 years
Hmm.
ago, and that's just the last hole. And you spread that out among all 15, like, holy smokes, man.
Yeah. It's wild, man. And what was I gonna say? All these, like the Governor's Cup getting added this year. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, I don't know the total amount of money that was added to that rodeo, but a guy being able to make $42,000 if he, won each round and won the average is insane as a last event of the year. It throws a huge wrench in the standings and allows guys to make huge jumps based off the money they're winning there, and that wasn't even an option 2 years ago. So, and then back to the PBR teams, man. How about the amount of, I hate saying famous people, but famous people getting into the industry? Dana White,
Mm-hmm.
he bought what, three? He bought a whole bunch of Bucking Bulls. He's got
Mm-hmm.
two or three at the PBR teams finals this weekend, which
Yep.
is huge. I mean, he created UFC. Am I wrong on that, or is he just the?
uh I don't know if he was one of
He's
the
like this. He's a
founders, but
spokesperson. Yeah,
he has been the CEO for a very, very long time. I
yeah.
can't say for sure, like, the actual history of the UFC, but
Me
yeah.
either. But it's very cool to me, at least, to see people getting involved in what we do and falling in love with cowboys and rodeo and just the sport, man. It's contagious, and I think that just goes back to, it's not necessarily like bred into us, but it's been a part of our culture since the beginning. Rodeo used to be the NFL back in the day. Like, you go to church, you go to Sunday rodeo and watch the rodeo every Sunday. And then a lot of towns in Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, all through the South had that. And so it's like the original America sport in my eyes, at least.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, well, I mean, it was bred directly off of our roots
yeah.
as as westward expansion. I was gonna just say cowboy, but I feel like that's simpling it down too far. But, like, the vision of the country, like, early on, was westward expansion, manifest destiny. And so, like, what was bred from that was pioneers and cowboys, and, like, what we now call the Western way of life. It was literally born in that movement of trying to explore this continent. And um so, I mean, it literally comes from rodeo itself, literally comes from our roots as Americans. And
Mm-hmm.
so, to say it isn't America's number one sport would be foolish, because it's literally, it stands for who we are, what we
Mm-hmm.
believe in, like our values. um just kind of across the board, it's a lifestyle turned into a competitive atmosphere.
Absolutely, dude. And I think, every kid's dream as a young boy is like they want to be a cowboy. So
Hmm.
it's something that resonates with all of us, whether you've been a part of it or not. I know people love going to the rodeo, but to see other people joining in from different demographics, different cultures, and being fired up about it and investing money in it, man, sky's the limit. We're going to be sitting here on year anniversaries, and I think for the next 10 years, we'll probably be saying, oh, wow, this looks different than last year. Holy crap, this looks different than
Hmm.
last year. And I'm really, really excited to see the changes that the PRCA and PBR are putting into play and to watch the sport grow. It's going to be insane. Absolutely
Hmm.
insane. Hey, changing the subject here. I've been talking with a bunch of clients today, sorry, it's 6:30 in the AM. I haven't talked to anybody today besides you. Uh, but I've been talking to a lot of younger clients recently that are new, and also been talking
Hmm.
to a couple of our coaches that have been having the same thing come up. And the biggest thing is, this is a bareback rider example, but they get their workout plan and they're like, when do I do the spur board? Like, is it built into the workout? Do I need to do it separately? How long do I stay on it? And I thought that was a really good opportunity for us to kind of break down, the difference between resistance training and skill training in the context
Mm-hmm.
of sport and then overall fitness. Um, so why don't you just break down real quick resistance training?
Yeah. So, I mean, resistance training is going to be what we would say is like, I guess to kind of paint the picture, if you played high school sports at all, like you had a time and place for football practice. You know, you were out on the field, you were padded up, you were doing football things. When football practice was over, or on Saturday mornings, or at 6 a.m. before school, whatever it was,
Oh, I
you
hated
had
Saturday morning
resistance training
workouts.
sessions. Yeah, of course, we all did. Um, but you had your strength training sessions then, and
Hmm.
so like what we tend to do as rodeo athletes is want to like make everything about our skill training. You know,
Yep.
and I'm 100% guilty of it, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. But like you come to the terms where you like you're eat, sleeping, and breathing your skill, and so like every thought that occupies your brain throughout the day is related to your skill. But
Hmm.
so
It's
with
exhausting.
resistance training, like we're wanting to enhance our body's capabilities to do our sport better. And so we're just trying to increase the capacity for movement, for mobility, for strength, for endurance. We want to make our bodies a more capable tool that we can then use in skill training.
Hmm. Absolutely. And it's really important. These are separate things. Um, when we get to our skill training, you are practicing your skill, obviously, whether it's riding a bucking horse, riding a bull, roping, running barrels, whatever it is. And I think the really important thing that we try to reiterate to all of our clients and athletes, and even if you're not a client or athlete and you're just listening, um, you need to practice perfect reps. So quality over quantity,
Mm-hmm.
big time, and especially on a spur board or something that is very taxing. I'd say like even tying calves off the post, like um, each of those things is physically taxing and is hard. And the second that you are exceeding your limits when it comes to fitness in those skills, your quality of rep goes down immensely. So
Mm-hmm.
you tell me if, I sit there for 15, 20 minutes straight on a spur board and, take minimal breaks. What do I look like by the end of it? I probably look like a fish out of water and I'm flopping around, just
Mm-hmm.
barely trying to hang on for dear life. And what's that going to do? It's going to translate to the arena. You just taught your body that that's the proper thing to do. So I remember when I was coming back to getting on bucking horses, I don't know how long it's been now, what, 4 years, something like that. Um, I took a totally different approach to my skill training and getting on the spur board. Dude, the first week I got on, I could barely get 3 reps out of this thing without like feeling gassed, being shaky. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where I stopped at 2 and I built to 3. And then over the next couple of days, I built to 4 perfect reps, 5 perfect reps. And eventually over time, I could ride that thing for 30 seconds straight. And I mean, dragging it out of that thing, setting it as hard as I could, try to break it, and never lost tension, felt good. But it's a build and it's a
Mm-hmm.
slow build or a slow burn getting there.
Exactly.
You've got to really focus on those perfect reps because you need to put into your head, this is what's going to happen in competition. You can't think in competition. You can think during your skill training, which is your time to get all those little wrinkles out, get to work and really slow it down. And once those reps start going to shit, stop, come back
Mm-hmm.
to it. I'm not saying that you can't get on that day again, but like I remember when I was building up 3, 4, 5, and 6, I'd walk by it every couple hours and I would get on and do 3 reps, 3 perfect reps. And then after a couple days, it was super easy to do 3 reps. So I went up to 4 and 5. But, Bennett, I know when he walks by his spur board, he gets on every chance he can. Every
Mm-hmm.
couple hours he'll jump on it just to mark it out and hold it and mash and feel a good tension through his posterior chain and through his arm and his shoulder and everything. So I would say just make sure that you are addressing these things correctly. And
Mm-hmm.
intensity has a time and a place for each resistance training and skills training, but only once you have your foundations and fundamentals mastered.
Absolutely. Yeah. Our skill training, our resistance training, all of the other stressors of life, like they're all fighting for the same energy provided by our central nervous system. And there's only so much that the central nervous system can give.
Mm-hmm.
And they can be built over time, like you were saying. But like if you go crush a really hard workout and you go right into your skills training, like what's your skill training going to look like? You're probably
Probably
going to be
not that good.
exhausted because you've
Yeah.
already tapped your CNS.
Mm-hmm.
And, that can happen within a one period. It can happen over a period of a week. You can drain yourself so bad over the period of a week that, like, your body's just run down. And so you want to probably separate your skill training and your resistance training, different sessions. And
Absolutely.
the other thing that I would say there is make sure that your last rep on your skill training looks as good as your first rep.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know, film yourself. Like we've all got camera phones now.
Dude,
So like you
that
just set
right
up a
there.
camera, film yourself doing a
Film
set,
yourself.
because so
Yes.
many people don't do that, and then they'll reach out to me on Instagram and be like, "Hey, I'm doing this on this is happening on bulls." And I'm like, "Well, what is your send me a video of your drop barrel or your stationary barrel. Like I saw what happened on the bull. I want to see what happens when you're practicing." And then they'll show me like what that looks like on their skill training. I'm like, "Oh, there's your problem, dude." Like
Yeah.
that those last 4 reps look horrible. And guess what? That translated over directly to when you got on a practice bull. Like
Yep.
you were mimicking the exact same thing that you were doing on the stationary barrel on a bull. You might have had a different intention on the stationary barrel. You're trying to do it perfect, but you weren't because you were exhausted. And now
Mm-hmm.
it's, your reps deteriorate and it looks awful. And that's what gets you bucked off.
Dude, videoing yourself is so important on skill work. Even if you're roping the dummy, you can see
Mm-hmm.
so much more that you can't feel when you're actually doing the skill because you're usually focused on one thing. So you'll be focused very hard on one thing, and then the other couple things can go not bad, but they're just not where they need to be, and they're not connecting right. Um, See that on the spur board all the time. So that was a
Mm-hmm.
really
With
really good
well,
tip,
like with roping too, like roping's one of
dude.
those things where
Yes.
it's a little bit less taxing.
Mm-hmm.
So like guys will rope a lot more often, and you'll see these like overuse injuries come up in their shoulders and stuff. But when your shoulder is tired and you're still throwing the rope at the dummy, like
Take a break.
you're compensating now. You're
Mm-hmm.
not getting that perfect throw. You're not getting that perfect swing that you really want or that you started out with, because like now your body's going to compensate. It's like, oh, well, this part of my shoulder is really tired, so something else is going to work a little bit harder to take over. And you do not want to drill those bad reps, because that's what's going to the last thing that you do is what your body's going to remember going into whatever you do next, whether it's another skill session or another or a competition.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was huge.
Dude, that's absolutely huge when it comes to skill and resistance training. So, like you said, these should be split up segments throughout the day. You usually do not want to go straight from resistance to skill. If you were to have to do them back to back, you should do your skill work first, because that is
Mm-hmm.
the priority in
100%
what
agree
you're
with that.
training, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
um, there's a little difference on resistance training, skill training. They're all pieces of the puzzle, but you need to be practicing good reps through both sessions, and really making sure that we're not just pushing intensity, because, like you said, the CNS can only adapt to so much before we're overtraining
Mm-hmm.
and overusing things. So let's get into this winner's mentality, what it takes to um, be a winner. There's lots of psychological, emotional elements that come with having a champion's mindset. Why don't you get us kicked off there? What do you like? What does that even mean to you? What's a winner's mentality?
Mm. Oh man, that's such like a broad topic too.
It
I wish I would have listened back to the
is.
first episode of the podcast and know what I said the first time.
Well, it's all right if it
But
changed.
yeah, I mean that's kind of the nature. Like that's the goal, right? Is to grow and evolve
Hmm.
and develop new ideas that are better than what they were before. But like I would say now, having done this for so long, it's easier to spot a winner's mindset, even just in like initial phone call with somebody.
Hmm.
You can tell that maybe they have a different approach to,
Hmm.
everything, like whether it's their training or, how they prepare themselves, or even how they think about competition. I think how they think about competition, it could be a huge one, just because like that's where the rubber meets the road. And if they have kind of a ho hum, like woe is me, I always draw bad
Mm-hmm.
mindset, like then that's probably going to be the outcome almost every time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess to kind of, if I were to summarize a winner's mentality, it's going to be the person that is willing to do what it takes and then ask what else,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe like what else like isn't even, maybe they're doing everything they need to do, maybe there's nothing left for them that they need to do, but they're still hungry enough or curious enough to like, is there anything else that I can be doing that's going to take me to the next level?
Mm-hmm.
And I know we talked about a few episodes ago, like Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, they were not stars in their early days. But if you look back at their careers, and now there's, Tom's doing interviews, Michael Jordan's got that documentary out. So you can kind of go in and get an inside look at what their approach was to things. And they always thought that they could improve.
Mm-hmm.
They were never stagnant at any point in their career. Well, even going into their last championship games, like they still thought that they could get better.
Mm-hmm.
That everybody else would have said like they're the best, they're the pinnacle, they're at the peak. But in their minds, there was always something that they could improve on, and I think that's probably what could summarize a winner's mentality.
That was really good, dude. I Speaking of Tom Brady, I just saw a video of him just cruising around on a $6 million yacht the other day. I was like, man, what a G. What a G. No, I think that was a really good description of a winner's mentality. And to me, it lines up with pretty much what you said, but it's somebody that's confident in their abilities, that is confident in their
Mm-hmm.
inabilities or their weaknesses. And what I mean by that is they
Mm,
are not so naive that they don't think they have any, right? They are well aware that they have
that's good.
weaknesses and they are coachable. So that means that they are willing to work on those things. They're willing to trust somebody to help them get better each day. And that right there is an ego thing. So many people get to this certain level or think they're at this certain level and think, well, I'm there. Like, I don't need help from anybody. Like, how can this guy help me? And that right there is going to be the
Mm-hmm.
detriment of your career. You will not make it near as far as you ever could or reach your full potential because at that point in time, you are closed off to any kind of outside help. And you think that you are God's gift to earth. And that's just not the fact. Someone that is willing to win at all costs is doing the things they don't want to do even though they need to do them. um, and part of that sometimes is reaching out for extra coaching and things like that. It makes you feel quote unquote weak or um, what's the word I'm looking for, like open but I'm trying to think,
Vulnerable.
vulnerable, yeah.
Yep.
Bingo. um, so people that win also have, to me, this is the number one. You talked about the woe is me or I always draw bad kind of person. Extreme
Mm-hmm.
ownership. No matter what
Mm-hmm.
happens, they are owning what happens to them and it's on them and they can make it better or they can make it worse. And so when you are someone that has extreme ownership and no matter good or bad, you can own it and figure out a way to move forward, that's when you're going to win. And that's when all of those things are going to line up for you. So winners put in the work, winners own their own shit, and they don't ever like comply with that thing and that voice in their head that says, "Oh, we're good. Let's not do that today." No, they just get it done
Mm-hmm.
because they know it needs to be done. And that's the difference between motivation and dedication too. Is,
Absolutely.
they're dedicated to being the best and they don't stop at that. Um, so that's my definition of winner's mentality. I think we kind of just covered some psychological and emotional elements of that. But did you have
Oh,
anything,
100%.
any stories, experiences that can kind of tie that together?
Mm, yeah, I could give like some personal anecdote.
Yeah, let's hear 'em.
And I think I was growing up, like I've told this before, but like I was the big fish in the small pond. I felt like, and and then when I moved uh down south, I moved to South Arkansas, near the Texas line where the big dogs were running,
Yep.
like there was, I was no longer big fish in small pond. And I learned a lot really quickly. I was like, oh, everybody is good here. I'm not unique anymore. Like this is different. And so that was a whole nother learning curve for me
Hmm.
because it had gotten to the point where I was patting myself on the back a little bit, and when I was able to overcome that and kind of humble myself and realize, like, like, okay, I I don't know it all. I don't do everything, and you have to be brutally honest, like
Hmm.
when you're doing this like audit of yourself, like, am I doing everything that it takes to win? Like, it was very, very clear I was not. Like, I was barely even covering the bases, like I
Hmm.
was doing very little in comparison to what I could have done. And I'm not saying that, we talk about that, the flip side of that all the time too. It's not like you have to, go kill yourself in every
No.
workout or, run 6 miles every day. Like that's not it either. But like, I didn't even like, it's having a plan and sticking to the plan and working the plan relentlessly. And then you achieve your goals. And
Hmm.
it was in 2018 when I finally realized, like, oh, when I set up this game plan, this training plan for myself, and I stick to it, sky's the limit. Like, I can overcome all these things that I've been plagued with before
Hmm.
because I'm leaving nothing to chance. Like, I'm betting on myself fully, and um giving myself the room to not only grow but like fail almost too. Like, you
Hmm.
kind of giving myself permission to fail. And that goes back to, we've talked about fixed and growth mindsets before, but like, when you don't want to fail, you're gonna be reserved. Like, you're gonna hold
Yeah.
back.
Hmm.
But when you give yourself permission to fail, um, you can attack everything,
Hmm.
because win, lose, or draw, that doesn't change who you are. Like, it
Hmm.
doesn't change how you think about yourself. You're able to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get back after it.
Hmm. Absolutely, man. Devin in the last episode mentioned, we don't fail, we learn. And if you can
Mm-hmm.
adapt and adopt that mindset, um, nothing changes if you are learning. One event doesn't go correctly or doesn't go the way you wanted to. Well, what did you learn from it? Is your goal different now that, one event didn't go your way? Hell no. Just get back to work and get going. Trust that process and trust that plan. And man, that's the hardest part about being a competitive and successful professional athlete, is going through those ups and downs and realizing that the fundamentals don't change. You have to continue to do these things no matter what level you are in the sport. I think a lot of guys get a little sabotaged in the sense that they think if they work for 2 or 3 years that, we'll just be there and that's it. You
Mm-hmm.
don't, what else? There's nothing else to do. And that's just false. You've got it. You will never stop working. You'll always continually be building on yourself, building on your skill sets. And that's how you continue to win. There is no end game for professional athletes until you're done competing. And even then, I wouldn't have an end game either. I'd make sure we have new goals. We have new things, that all those things you learn from sport, take that to business, take that to life, and go win at whatever you want to win at. You know how to win. If you can figure that in sport, winners win no matter what they're doing. So those skills don't change across the board really. It's the same mentalities, um, and same way of going about it. So I think that's really, really important. Um, man, you got anything else to wrap this up?
No, man, that was mic drop, bee's
Yeah.
knees right there.
I hope everyone listening was able to take away something from this. If you have any questions about, mindset, resistance training, skill training, want to bullshit about rodeo, shoot us a message. Shoot us a DM. Find us on Instagram, champion.living. For me, you can find Paul at Coach Paul. Is it underscore Lloyd?
Nope, just Coach Paul Lloyd.
Coach
All
Paul Lloyd.
all
And then
one
we
word.
got Logan at logan.championliving. Guys, we got to thank our sponsors, Beastmaster Rodeo, the OGs, and setting the precedent for rodeo gear companies in today's world. They are outstanding. Like I said, they've had some new rough stock boots they've just released. They are going to be having some. This should be coming out beginning of November.
This will be at
So,
the after the end of the shop sale. So.
okay, cool. So, Shap sale will be over, but I know they're having Black Friday and Cyber Monday. They've been hinting at
Mm-hmm.
some things coming up. So, pay attention to them. BeastmasterRodeo.com. Use our discount code Champion Limit, caps locked, Going to save you 10% on all of their products. And we got to thank Hui. God, I love these hoodies so much. They're so soft. Um, their whole fall line just dropped, guys. Check them out. GetYourHui.com. Use our discount code Champion Living, all one word, not case sensitive. Going to save you 10% on all their hats, shirts, jeans, hoodies. We live in Hui gear, guys. Check them out, and outstanding Christmas gifts. So start getting ahead on that. Use that discount code, save you a little bit of cash. And guys, until next time, we'll catch you later.